There are many timeless songs. One of them is Anything You Can Do. Let's imagine that song was rewritten just a little for the two youngest daughters of two families. Olive Silverstein and Edwina McIntyre compete against each other to find out which of them is the smartest, which of them has the most straight A's in school, which one of them will win the science fair, which one of them is so smart that she'll invent something that'll make her and her family millions of dollars. Mr. Silverstein and Mr. McIntyre encourage their daughters' competitions, and the fathers compete against each other to find out which father raised his daughter best. Meanwhile, Mrs. Silverstein and Mrs. McIntyre are friends. Olive's older sister and Edwina's older brother are friends too. At a community picnic, the Mrs. and the older siblings are socializing. Olive and Edwina and their fathers are giving each other dirty looks. Olive challenges Edwina which of them can identify all the plants in the park. Amid their challenge, Olive and Edwina witness a terrible crime. The perpetrator manages to catch them. He threatens them that if they tell anyone about what they saw, he'll take out their mummies and daddies. You're going to see a new fight between Olive and Edwina. Edwina wants to fight for justice, making sure the perpetrator does not get away with this terrible crime. Olive wants to keep Edwina quiet. She doesn't want to know if the perpetrator was making an empty threat or not. Is Edwina going to take the risk and be a good Samaritan? Is Olive going to succeed in stopping Edwina, thereby protecting both of their families? This animated family film is temporarily called BG until its completion. What's one of the coolest characters that'll never die? The cool old lady. She can be anywhere from her 60s to hundreds of years old and is the most fun to be around. We start with the old lady, Xena Ray, and her husband, waking up in the morning, realizing they're still alive. Xena Ray and her husband talk together about what they're going to do today. Then Xena Ray notices her husband passed away. This upsets her because they plan to die together. Xena Ray could start moping about how much she misses him until she dies. What if that takes too long? She recalls those moments when she was a gunslinger, in her youth, how close she was to death. Now Xena Ray has a plan. She dons her western duds, steps out of retirement, and becomes a gunslinger again, assuming she'll meet her death on the field of battle. Or she'll meet her death on the way to the field of battle, whichever comes first. She knows what her destination is. She just wants the journey to be fun. You'll see her visit old haunts, her last goodbyes to her kids and grandkids, what friends and enemies she made in her past. Find out if any of those friends and enemies are still around. This series is a combination of The Joys in the Journey and My Life Flashed Before My Eyes. This old lady's destination is macabre, yet she remembers what laughter and joy she experienced back when. And she creates new memories with more laughter and joy with new people. She makes such an impact that others become upset when she dies at the end of her trail. This animated kids series about the cool old lady is called Berta Trail. The female demographic of the movie-going audience have been asking for a new First Wives Club, a lighthearted comedy of three women realizing their husbands have been taking them for granted. However, it should be about trans widows. A trans widow is a woman whose husband or male partner is an autogynephile, AGP for short. We have Mrs. Candy Green, her husband, and her daughter. Mrs. Nutmeg Brown, her husband, and her daughter. Mrs. Callista Black, her husband, and her son. All three husbands recklessly spend money, practically making their families homeless. The husbands tell their wives they're lesbians now. The husbands demand their kids call them mom. Meanwhile, Candy, Nutmeg, and Callista are expected to do all the men's domestic work. Pay the bills, mow the lawn, take out the garbage. And the women's domestic work. Cook the meals, clean the house, raise the kids. All by themselves. So much for domestic bliss. If Candy, Nutmeg, and Callista step out of line and stop supporting their stunning and brave AGP husbands, they are going to be called bigots, turfs, witches, dinosaurs that are going to die out. You'll see Candy Green, Nutmeg Brown, and Callista Black make one of two choices. 1. Cope with their alternative domesticity dreams. 2. Divorce their trans women husbands. They're divorcing their trans partners? Nobody drops the T! I'm calling this lighthearted comedy of trans widows and their HEB husbands Dinosaurs for Tea. Have you ever been in a long-term relationship that was almost perfect? Then your partner wants to end the relationship? Oof the Small Mite is a great barbarian gnome. Her heroism is legendary. During one of her quests, she met the woman who became her wife. Now she doesn't want to be her wife anymore. She wants a divorce. Oof loves her wife too much to let her go. She shoulders her pack, raises her sword, and goes forth to win her wife's favor. Oof even forces 3 complete strangers to join her on her quest. You'll see Oof make a fool of herself. She is laser focused on her goal. One of her 3 quest companions tells Oof to get her act together and talk to her wife. Find out why she wants a divorce and if there's anything that can change her mind. The lady of the house tells Oof that if she can pass her test, then they can stay married. If Oof fails, then she doesn't want to hear any more of this. The divorce is final. When people say this character deserves happiness, they're usually referring to the character being loved by the person they love. Oof thought she achieved that happiness. This fairy tale begins at the happily ever after. Our heroine is on a journey to ensure that her happiness is ever after. This fairy tale series for the mature audience is called Something in Your Eyes.